We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, the halachot of Kriyat Shema. We're starting Siman Samech Tet, the halachot of what's called Pores al Shema, and it has two seifim. We already studied the basics of this in Masechet Megillah together on Daf Chaf Gimel Amud Bet, and Shulchan Aruch brings from there, Im yesh bnei adam sheitpalelu kol echad lifnei atzmo b'yachid. If you have a number of people who each one of them has davened, but they didn't get the tefillah betzibur, and now they're coming together because they haven't heard Kaddish, they haven't heard Kedusha, and now they want to hear Kaddish and Kedusha. Says Maran Shulchan Aruch, Omed echad mehem ve'omer Kaddish u'baruchu baracha rishona yotzer or velo yoter. One of them stands up. Now you have 10. Right? You davened without minyan, and boom, at the end, someone showed up. Now you got minyan. So you have Omer Kaddish Baruchu Baracha Rishona Yotzer Or Velo Yoter. V'zeh nikra Pores al Shema. This is called Pores al Shema. It's like a half a Shema. Leshon Chaticha Prutza. So Pores is the language of peace. Because you only are saying a little bit of Shema, not more of it. Says the Mishna Berurah, Kol Echad, he brings from Rabbeinu David ben Zimra, one of the names that is familiar to us. He spoke by his life. He was in the same generation as Maran. Many consider him as the last generation of the Rishonim, of the medieval authorities. He was a Nagid in Mitzrayim for over 50 years. He was actually the last quote-unquote Nagid in Mitzrayim. Nagid was a title that was created in the time of Rambam. Rambam was the first Nagid of Mitzrayim, which because of his influence in the palace of the Salahuddin, King Salahuddin, he became officially in charge of the community. And that was like a Rishon LeZion type of thing in Mitzrayim, the last of which was Radbaz, Rabbeinu David ben Zimra, and then he actually moved to Eretz Yisrael in his 90s. He lived a very, very blessed, healthy life, and he overlapped with Maran Shulchan Aruch in Eretz Yisrael, and so on. The story of it we have said before. So the Radbaz actually writes in Siman Resh Mem Aleph of Chelek Dalet, he disagrees with this, and he says, and this is the Mishna Berurah actually brings his language in the Mishna Berurah here. Says, if 10 people, each one of them separately davened without a minyan, they have lost the ability to say Kaddish and Kedusha, as we say by Birkat Hamazon. What's the halacha by Birkat Hamazon? If you had people that they benched already, and now they get together, they just ate, but they benched, or one of them benched. They already, I mean, they eat together, and one of them, then you don't have Birkat Hamazon. We're going to have this later on in Siman Kuf Tzadi Dalet of Shulchan Aruch, the halachot of Birkat Hamazon. We're going to discuss this more at length. But Kevan de Parach Binayu, even though that now, afterwards, they get together, 10 people who ate bread, but because they benched already, there's no Zimun. Zimun you lost, because they benched. Here also, even though that the 10, they daven together, they daven rather separately, but now they're together, says the Radbaz, they can't say Kaddish, they can't say Kedusha, it's not possible. And if you do that, that's bracha lebatala, says the Radbaz. And this is brought in a rich version of it is brought in Magen Avraham right over here in Sifkat Dalet, and in Sefer Magen Giborim Chayada. Many people bring the tshuva of the Radbaz l'halacha, and the Rama Mipano, Rav Menachem Azaria Mipano, he was one of the Mekubalei Poskim, in Siman Pedalet in his tshuvot, and the Derech HaChaim, which is Rabbi Yaakov Milisa, one of the Gedolei Ashkenazim. He's the author, is otherwise known as Chavodat or Netivot. His Perush HaShulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah is called Chavodat. His Perush HaChoshen Mishpat is called Netivot HaMishpat. There's no yeshiva bacher that doesn't know what a nesivus is, right? Nesivus is Netivot HaMishpat. Now, in Mishna Berurah, you don't see a lot of Netivot or Chavodat. Those are Yoreh De'ah, Choshen Mishpat. But almost every single page of Mishna Berurah has from a sefer called Derech Chaim, right? Nobody knows who is this Derech HaChaim, because it's not a sefer, it's a sidur. It's a sidur that Rabbi Yaakov Milisa published. It was the Rav of Lisa, and in it is a halachic, like any other thing that he wrote. All the halachot of Orach Chaim he brings in his sidur. So Mishna Berurah was very much impressed by his work, and he brings him all the time. Almost again, as we mentioned before, every page of Shulchan Aruch of Mishna Berurah has Derech Chaim. So Derech Chaim also brings in Dinei Brachot. He brings that Shulchan Aruch. So you have the Ramah Mipano and the Netivot that they side with Shulchan Aruch. On the other hand, you have many poskim who don't go with Shulchan Aruch. Now, the Kaf HaChaim, Rabbi Yaakov Chaim Sofer, he also paskins like Maran Shulchan Aruch Meikar Adin, that even though that they daven, each one of them alone, they could get together and say Kaddish and what Shulchan Aruch says. And Chacham Ovadia also paskins like that. But Ben Ish Chai is Machmir. Ben Ish Chai in his, not in Sefer Ben Ish Chai, but in his Tshuvot Raf Be'alim, he writes that in this one you should side with the Radbaz, because we don't have the allowance to say Tefillah of Chazarat Shaliach Tzibur because of Safek Brachot La'akel. There's Safek Brachot La'akel. You're saying Brachot over here, Brachot that they already said. So who gives you the right to say bracha when you have a doubt in the poskim? Many poskim follow the Radbaz. Now you'll tell me, Maran, Kibal lo Raot Maran, we accepted the psak of Maran. Correct. But we have another klal in halacha that even against Maran, we're so concerned about bracha lebatala, potential bracha lebatala, because we have spoken many times before that there's machloket among the Rishonim. When you say an unnecessary bracha, whether that's the Rabbanan or the Oraita, you probably all remember that we mentioned Rambam holds that if you say an unnecessary bracha, even though that the context of mentioning Hashem's name is in a blessing way, in a praise way, say Baruch Atah Hashem, or here you're saying Yotzer, or you're saying bracha, but if it's unnecessary bracha, you're in full-fledged transgression of the third of the Aseret HaDibrot, Lo Tisah et Shem Hashem Elokecha Hashem. That's Rambam. Shulchan Aruch paskins like Rambam. So therefore, we are stuck. And hence the Sfaradim, even though that accepted Horaot of Maran Shulchan Aruch, the Psak of Shulchan Aruch, we say, Safek Brachot Le'akel, Afilu Neged Maran. Even going against Maran Shulchan Aruch, we say Safek Brachot Le'akel. Hence, says the Ben Ish Chai, you don't have to say it, and you shouldn't say it in Rav Palim. Now, how Chacham Ovadia deals with this, Safek Brachot Le'akel, is a very interesting topic, a little bit, outside the scope of this little talk. It's a complicated thing because sometimes when you paskin in a mitzvah like Maran, but the side effect of it is that you have to also say bracha, then we would paskin like Maran Shulchan Aruch, and here is a little bit more. There are additional side things as well, which B'ezrat Hashem maybe at some point we'll have a shiur on it. But be that as it may, you have a machloket the Chacham Ovadia and Ben Ish Chai over here, whether or not the person should or could do this pores al shema. Now, Maran Khatam Sofer, Rabbi Moshe Sofer, he was the lead, the undisputed leader of the Ashkenazic world in the time of Reform and conservative booming. He was the one that single-handedly basically took on the whole Reform movement. He wrote tremendous tshuvot against this. He was in his second marriage, he was the son-in-law of Rabbi Akiva Eger, the famous Gadol Ador of the time. So Chatam Sofer writes in Orach Chaim Siman Yudzayin, Dechen Amad Dvar, that's what people say, Karadbaz, that the minhag is like Radbaz. We don't say the bracha. That has evolved to be the minhag. אכן גם לרדב"ז אם יש אחד מהם שלא יתפלל עדיין יכול לפרוס על שמה. Now, if even according to the Radbaz, if one of them has not davened yet, then you could still say Pores al Shema because one of them is there that needs it, and you could have that person be the one that's Shaliach Tzibur. You could be the Shaliach Tzibur and say all the Prisad al Shema. Says the Kaf HaChaim, in this scenario that you have one of them that has not davened yet, he should say Ishtabach. Sheyomar Ishtabach bekol ram, chen Kaddish Baruch Hu, and he says Kaddish, he says Baruch Hu, and afterwards he will say Kriyat Shema, and at the brachot of Kriyat Shema, quietly, beno leben atzmo, by himself. When he gets to Shemona Esrei, to the Tefillah of Lachash, he will say the first 3 brachot out loud, like when we say the Hechi Kedusha time. You say until the third bracha, you say Naktishach, then you read the rest of the. So you won't have a Tefillah of Chazara. What's that? No, you say Naktishach. You say Atah Kadosh. Exactly like that's Atah Kadosh is the third bracha, right? You say Atah Kadosh, and then the rest of it you say quietly, like a Hechi Kedusha, because this way you're out of all the machlokets. He hasn't davened yet. Who will be the Shaliach Tzibur, so to speak? There's no Chazara going on. There's no extra brachot. This is his tefillah. So you have great because you got the Kaddish in, you got the Kedusha in, right? You got the first bracha of Kriyat Shema. He needed to say it. And it's amazing, says the Kaf HaChaim. What do you do with Titkabal? Can you say Titkabal if everyone is still sticking around? Says the Kaf HaChaim, or Ben Ish Chai over here actually says that you can't say Titkabal because the Tefillah was not Beminyan. The Tefillah was not Beminyan, and Titkabal was only instituted when you had a Tefillah Betzibur. And Rav Shalom Mashash, in his Tshuvot Shevesh Magen, he also passes the same way. But Kaf HaChaim, it's a little bit more sympathetic to this. It says, even in this scenario, that they didn't daven together, but they had Prisat Shema, one of them needed the Tefillah, you could say Kaddish Titkabal, because you have a minyan, and one of them needed the Tefillah, and Chacham Obadia also sides with the Ben Ish Chai, with the Kaf HaChaim over here, that you could say Kaddish Titkabal. So you have 2 major differences between the Ben Ish Chai and Chacham Obadia in this Seif, which is, of course, very important and very fundamental. I have to leave a little bit earlier today, so Bezrat Hashem will continue this in the days to come.